Welcome back to the Men's Media Network. I know it's been a long hiatus. I did not adequately explain that, I don't think. Um, but I was bought out. I've been under a no compete clause. When I walked away, Joe Rogan gave me an undisclosed amount of money to not produce any more videos. And hence not compete. And I've got to put a disclaimer on it. I'm not going to say for sure that my lack of videos being circulated contributed to the success of Joe Rogan, but certainly didn't hurt him any. So, with that said, I got his permission expressly to make this video. And it'll be just the one. But it's one that's going to be near and dear to my heart. This is the Iron Bunch edition. Because so often people come to me and they'll say, Chris, how do I get better performance out of my sports team? Now, with my infinite knowledge in sports, I usually don't give away that kind of advice for free. And certainly not unsolicited. But I'm going to try to do this. And I'll use this blanket statement. Something that I do for most of the people that come for my advice. I'll tell them, change your carburetor. And you may say, well, Chris, this is not a racing team. Well, it kind of is. Well, especially with the speed that the Iron Bunch is going to have this year. It's a lot about the carburetor. And what the carburetor does, when you change it, you get more fuel. And I hope this video is exactly that, more fuel. And we all know what the fuel is. Fuel's testosterone. As men, you just can't go without the fuel, without the testosterone. But to talk about the Iron Bunch, you've got to go back in time. And I'm only 736 hours, credit hours away from being a history teacher, which makes me basically a history teacher. I'm qualified. So to talk about the Iron Bunch, you got to go back in time to ancient history, to the Stone Age. And novice history teachers would tell you that the Stone Age was the Stone Age because the tools were stone and the wheels on the Flintstone cars was stone. That's not entirely accurate. Stone Age got its name from the first football players in Hubbardsville. Football originated in Hubbardsville, and they didn't play with a ball. They played with a rock. Hence the terminology we still use today, throw me the rock, feed me the rock. Well, they had to quit that because our ancient ancestors were so strong when they caught the rock, they crushed it. So the football evolved into a kind of a hybrid rabbit, brontosaurus, pig creature to their skin and became the football. Moving on from the Stone Age was the Bronze Age. And a lot of people, again, wannabe historians would tell you the Bronze Age was the use of brass. Well, not really. Yes, there was brass being used, but brass was single-handedly depleted during this era because of all the football games Hubbardsville was winning. Yeah, that's why you can't find nothing brass today. It's because we used it all on Hubbardsville's trophies. You can go down there and look in cases down there. It's nothing but brass. Now, since brass has been depleted, it's gold-plated plastic. But you thank Hubbardsville for that. And moving on from this brass age came the Iron Age. Now, again, people that don't quite know their history would say that whole age was because of the further developments in metallurgy. And that's not true. The Iron Age, certainly there was iron being used, but they had to name a whole age after what the Hubbardville football team was doing. And hence they became the Iron Bunch, because they had a whole age named after them. And that's why the football field to this day is called the Gridiron, because of the Iron Bunch, Hubbardville, again. And in this Iron Age, there were several developments. Indians lived amongst us in Hubbardville in the Iron Age until we challenged them to a football game and beat them bad. The Indians even cheated. They tried to ride their horses. We even beat them too. We beat them so bad, the Indians volunteered to leave here. They went a couple of counties over. Now, I don't know if they ran them off or not, but Hubbardville didn't. We played them in football and beat them. And then, one of the greatest stories ever told happened in the Iron Age. The 300 Spartans. And 300 Spartans were unique for a lot of different reasons. They threw the weaker children down a well. Well, obviously in a civilized society like we are today, talking about our new Iron Bunch, we can't do that. We can't throw kids down a well. So we let them go to Berry, or some of the other surrounding 1A schools that date all the way back to those villages that Hubbardville filled their trophy cases off of. But the 300 Spartans, they also bred the perfect warrior. Hubbardville's been doing it for years. See, when a prospective Hubbardville dad is looking for his prospective mate, it's almost like a process. Has to go through an application. He looks at her, certainly he's after beauty, but there's more important things to the Hubbardville dad. He looks at her in terms of what kind of football player can we produce. He looks at her shoulders, the things that matter in building an athlete. And then certainly it don't stop there. He looks at can she cook? Can she feed this athlete? RFK Jr. just this past week was at Hubbardville. And he was talking to Caleb Hines about their nutrition program. He looked at the Iron Bunch, this team going into this 2025 season. He told Caleb, he said, carry on. He said, but I would like to know what you feed them. And Caleb told him, cornbread, peas, country food. RFK Jr. is talking about modeling an entire nutrition program after what the Iron Bunch eats. That's how good they look this year. And speaking of politicians, Meemaw Ivey, governor of the great Commonwealth of Alabama, and Buford Pusser, whoever it is runs the state, was talking about hurricane prevention. They said they may just take and call Trent Hill, get that offensive line down there, and let them stand on the coast of the Gulf of America and tell them Mobile is a quarterback. Ain't no Cat 4 or Cat 5 getting through that, baby. Ain't happening. Ain't gonna happen. And the defense. The defense, they ought to work at a Waffle House. They ought to work at the Huddle House, because they handing out them pancakes, baby. They gonna hand them out. They gonna put some stuff on them boys that they hit that Brewers yeast and icy hot ain't gonna take off. You heard of the polar plunge and ice bucket challenge? These boys that they play is gonna need a solid week of it. And looking at the history of the game, my pawpaw and Ray Roby and them, they practiced in cow pastures and in fields. Well, that's why pads was invented. All them boys were so tough, going all the way back to the earliest of the Iron Bunch. They'd hit the ground, and it'd make a big old crevasse, a crater. And the next time they had to plow that field or cows come through there, they'd fall off in a big old hole and take the whole community of Hubbardville to get it out of there. That's why they wore pads. Keep from tearing the ground up so bad. Well, nowadays, this new Iron Bunch, this 2025 Iron Bunch, these Russians and these Afshars, all these boys that's so successful in baseball, basketball, shout out to some good seasons. Well, they're wearing these pads, and it ain't for their protection. It's for the other teams. And when I'm talking about the other teams, it's all these other ones that's in this region around here, this area here, that's trying to get down to the south region for the big game where they can play Maplesville, Brantley, or them other cheaters that got their kids in them schools, couldn't afford to be in the private schools down there. But I'm going to tell you, speaking to these other schools around here, to these other villages, the road to that south region game runs through Wiley Hollingsworth Stadium and Lamar Harris Field. You believe that? Look here. I'm just hoping all these boys stay healthy, stay strong, have a good time, and hey, get your schoolwork too. Be the good kids that I know you are. And look here, to all my homies in the county in Cell Block 6, look here. You could spend your time crying about being behind bars, or you could be thankful that you ain't got to play the Iron Bunch this Friday night. Love, peace, and chicken grease.